Hello and welcome folks to Agato's Flight School. I'm not really flying much lately in virtual reality just because the real flying season is well underway, and so I try to spend my time in the real planes and not in the virtual ones. But when I hop into IL2 I noticed quite a difference lately, and I got a lot more comfortable with the characteristics of IL2 and its flight model, and this has a distinctive effect on the fights I see and I fly in IL2. And in this video I want to go through 3 of my latest fights I had and show you the key points. I will show first the sequence itself as it happened in the game from the cockpit without icons, so you get an idea what happened, and then we will hop into a commentary and I will explain why and where I did which move and where I think my opponent did a mistake that made it easier for me to get the kill. So I hope you enjoy this, and now let's hop into the replays. You saw the first sequence. I am attacking a P-40 that is strafing and attacking one of our airfields together with another P-40. You see my approach here is low and the P-40 is in a left turn. And we will now start the sequence. And what I try to do is get in plane with the enemy and on his 6. He goes up and goes into a turn, and I have to decide if I will go for the headshot, and we will stop here. And from the angle here, and you saw in the sequence before, I noticed that the P-40 will not be able to get his guns on me, and so I can get a front shot in without being in the danger of getting shot myself, and so I take this front shot. Usually I don't go head on because I don't like to have a 50-50 chance on getting out of an engagement. I take the shot, I get a couple of hits in, and the P-40 goes down. I also nose down, so I accelerate, don't lose energy. Then the P-40 turns the other way around over the horizon, and I keep my nose below him, but slightly go up. I start to shoot a little bit early, get some more hits in, he notices it, and then goes into a hard brake high. And here, let's stop again. I personally don't think this is a good idea. If you already have done a pretty high turn, and you got an enemy on your 6, and he already got hits on you, it's probably not the best idea to do a high brake. Why, in my opinion? Very simple. If you go high, your speed will drop. If your speed will drop, yes, your turning circle will also drop, and your turn rate might increase if you are if you start the turn above your maneuvering speed. But on the negative side, if you go up and your speed drops, the necessary lead the enemy has to pull will also decrease. And another thing is you might try to lure the guy behind you into an overshot, but then you need to have a good speed difference. And that is not the case here. You saw when I started shooting, I was at around 500 meters. Here, the distance is around 300 meters, and I'm not really have excessive closing speed. So when I would have been the P40, I would have gone for a no slow hard brake, as probably with a lot of rudder to try to lure my enemy in the wrong turn. And you will see that I am able to stay with the P40 here. Let's move on. Get some hits in. And here actually he achieved what he wanted. The closing rate is pretty high. And I can no longer shoot at him. You see I popped flaps, which is one essential thing in IL2 to do. And then he does the next mistake, and that is that he reverses his turn. Also, he has beaten me in this situation. He will reverse his turn, which allows me to get the final blow in. You see, he reverses, I come around, get some more shots in, and he's done. And now he's going down, and I get energy back and check my 6. So, second sequence, just as in-game. I got a report on the map that something is attacking a column of our troops, and I get into range. I see 2 planes fighting, and from the traces I took the higher one to the enemy, and it played out. I stay low and keep my energy up, and the enemy is actually an LA5. At this point, you might wonder why I turned to the left. Very simple. I have the idea that the LA5 is in a reverse, in a left turn, which will take him to my right side. And from the speed and closure, I see I have the idea I need a little bit more turning room. And so instead of turning right and getting onto his 6, I do a very tiny lag displacement roll to the right to put myself in his long 6. And you know, he's turning to the left, and there he goes. Closing speed is actually really fast, and he's faster than I thought, and so I slightly overshoot, but still coming. And here again, you see the LA5 seems to have seen me and goes in a nose-high defensive brake. And again, this is, as said before, this is not a good idea. You lose your energy, and if you misjudge my energy state, you might end up low and slow. And this is what happens here. He goes up, loses energy, I pop my flaps, stay behind him, he tries a reversal, and as he's slow and cannot make really room, I get in the kill and shoot off his wing. Here you saw second sequence. Second time I got the killing blow in was when the enemy reversed in a nose high attitude at low energy. And so probably this is something I personally try to avoid when I'm slow, that I reverse into the enemy because it does not give separation. So that was the second kill. Very quick, you also notice this is, I'm not really struggling with getting shots in, with keeping my plane airborne, keeping in controlled flight at low speed. This is all what I said when I meant I get more comfortable with the characteristics of IL2's flight modeling. The same appears to the flaps. I'm now very used to using flaps to increase my lift and my turning ability, and so I'm no longer fooled by other guys doing the same stuff and getting an advantage on me. So second sequence ends, LA5 lost its wing and it's going down, and as usual I check my 6, get energy back up. And third sequence, let's start it. Okay, start of the third and last sequence. I hit the record button a little too late, so I will describe what happened before that. I spotted this LA5 below me in the opposite direction, and so what I did, I changed my heading and did a split S to get on his low 6. And as you can see, this worked out pretty well. And now I try to come and equalize energy states and get into a nice tracking shot position on his low 6. Let's start the sequence. He goes into a right brake, I pop flaps, follow him up, I shoot and I aim in the wrong direction, and then he goes and we go into a classic rolling scissors. As you noticed here, this is actually a much better defensive turn than in the sessions before. You also noticed first he went high, but then he changed his lift vector and went low. And here I actually do not really get a shot at him, but does not continue. This reverses and allows me again to get some hits in. I'm really close to overshooting him. That's why I go high here, you know, and this is the key point in this rolling scissors. He went high to force the overshoot, and instead trying to hit him at that point, I try to go even higher when he is forced to go low, and when he is forced to go low he will accelerate, and if I can keep my nose up at that point and my plane flying, because he's accelerating, he will end up in front of me, and that is what happens here. You know, I get separation and again get hits in, and the final killing blow when he reverses, and then I notice that I probably have a problem here because there might be a second plane in, and that's actually the case, and this is this yak. And so instead of doing hard maneuvers, I'm doing a nose low, evasive, hitting the deck and going using my speed to get separation. And so this ends, the LA is done, and I'm getting separation from the yak. So these were the 3 sequences, and then with commentary. I hope you enjoyed them and you got an idea of how I fly, how I set up my kills, and where and when I decide what to do and why I do this. And I also hope you got an idea where I think my opponent did the critical mistake that allowed me to get the final shots. And you might have noticed this, and this is actually why I choose those three sequences. Not that I have much in my record here because of my flying is so few lately. But when you look at all three sequences, the key moments are actually always when the opponent reverses. And this is a critical point in your defensive flying. I think most people do reverse much too often. If you do a hard brake turn and you take some hits, like the P40 did in the last break, and you have actually broken the gun solution of your hunter, a reversal will put you back into his flight path and will allow him a second gun solution, which is not something you want if you have broken his gun solution. If you got an angle off, you want to utilize on this. The same more or less in the second sequence. The guy was going up, which I think is in defensive flying always a mistake. Your instinct should be that you go down and not up. The guy got up, got low on energy, and then he reversed. And this has allowed me to get a very solid kill shot in, taking his wing off. And then the third sequence, where the guy did actually a pretty good defensive rolling scissors at the start. Then two things happened. He reduced the circle of his movement, which basically does not give me the necessity to correct for a large movement of my target, because he's actually rotating in one spot, and so I don't have to fly along there. And then again, when he forced the overshot, he reversed too often, in my opinion, especially when he had too much horizontal moment in the reversal. You know, in the classic rolling scissors or vertical scissors, you try to use gravity to force the enemy out in front of you. And if you then put in horizontal movement there, you unnecessarily spend energy, which the guy chasing you can utilize on. Because if he stays in the vertical, he just has to wait and delay his reversal in the vertical until you are out of energy. And so there, you know, it was close, but that's when we're comfortable flying with the flight mechanics come in. I'm now used to slow flying with the FW, and so I could use this. And then when you saw I hit the LA5, got the final blow in, I had this instinct that something was on my 6. I checked my 6 and yes, there was the yak. And when you saw my exit for the fight, I did not try to brake hard, did not try to reverse the situation, force an overshoot, because, as I said, it's a very bad situation if a guy is sitting around 500, 600 meters on your 6 or on your 7 o'clock. And so what I did, I kept my nose low, accelerated, utilized on my speed advantage, which I have in the FW, and only held a slight curve, so he has a much harder time to do a long-range deflection shot. And this is also here. If I nose down and I'm in a slight turn and I'm accelerating, the distance the deflection he has to use to actually hit me will increase with the acceleration and my speed. And it's exactly the opposite what happened to me when those guys went high. They deaccelerated, making the deflection shot easier because I did not really have to use a lot of deflection, but basically could point my guns at their nose and then would hit the fuselage. So I hope those ideas help you in your flying. Always happy landings, always happy hunting. See you again here at Agathos Flight School in the future. Bye bye, folks.